Welcome back to Shadow to Soul. I'm Darshni, a regression therapist and a soul guide. On this podcast, I share real stories from my work. Stories that show how what we carry internally shapes how we experience life. This episode is about something many people experience and are quietly affected by: the feeling of being left out, of being excluded, of being replaced, of not being chosen. And what begins to happen when that feeling repeats itself over time? This is a story about Daisy. She came in feeling incredibly distraught, feeling fed up. A close friend of hers, someone she trusted, began to exclude her. Plans were being made that she was not a part of. People she had introduced were now connecting without her. But what made it harder this time was recognizing a pattern. She had experienced this multiple times before, with different people, in different spaces. And this time, she noticed something about herself. She noticed her own responses changing. She began excluding back, holding back, moving in ways that didn't align with who she really was. And she began to question, why does this keep happening to me? On the surface, this would appear to be another friendship dynamic, but she quickly recognized that this wasn't new. This familiar feeling of being left out, of not being included, of not being chosen. And now she questioned, am I not enough to be chosen? So today I began by just starting with what she felt. And through a layered approach, one feeling sat above another. It started with, I feel betrayed. Beneath betrayal, she felt rejected. Beneath the rejection, she felt invisible. And beneath this invisibility, she felt insecure. Beneath the insecurity, she felt, I am not enough. Finally, beneath that, the bottom layer was, I am not worthy. This was the core emotion that was playing up and causing all the other feelings to come up through those different experiences. Within a trance, her awareness moved to a moment in childhood. She was around 7 years old, at school, and she noticed the other children playing. She was sat by herself, waiting to be included. And in that moment, a conclusion settled within her, a judgment about herself. No one is choosing me. And within that feeling of deep loneliness, she made a decision to be able to cope with it. I will try so people choose me. And that coping mechanism stayed with her as she navigated life. As we continued, her awareness moved to an even earlier time, to the very moment that she was born. Her father had been hoping for a son, and in that moment when he first held her and he looked at her, she sensed something. She didn't feel fully received by her father. And in that moment, not feeling received in that moment of birth, she again created another coping mechanism through a judgment she made. I will become someone who is fully seen. From that innocent moment, a pattern began of trying, of achieving, of always doing more, with a desperate need to feel accepted. And no matter how much she tried, she achieved, and she did, she never really did feel truly accepted. Another moment revealed itself. She was 9 years old. She was at a relative's house, and this home was filled with tension. She was in the kitchen, and there were voices raised in the living room. She was alone, waiting for someone to come to reassure her. She stood alone, not knowing what was happening and not knowing where to go. And in that moment, a familiar feeling returned. There's no one here for me. A deep sense of being alone. And once again, to cope with the intensity of that emotion and to make sense of it, she formed another decision. I need to do everything right so I can feel secure within a connection. At this point, she recognized a thread through these experiences, a pattern of wanting to belong, a pattern of wanting acceptance, an early experience of not feeling seen, of not feeling received, of not feeling secure in her relationship, in her connection, of not feeling chosen. Over time, shaped how she showed up in relationships, in life, always giving more, accommodating more, trying to maintain connection, even at her own expense. And when situations arise that reflect this pattern, they land deeply. This work allowed her to reflect on her relationship with herself. At each stage, she released what she had been holding: the loneliness, the need to prove, the pressure to be chosen, and the judgments she had made. Because she was actually able to see the higher perspective within every single situation. And as she released all that she was holding that wasn't needed anymore, her own resources returned. She claimed back her sense of worthiness, her sense of belonging, and most importantly, her own self-love. In that pivotal moment of her birth, connecting with her higher perspective, her higher self, she was able to see that, yes, while her father did want a son and may have felt a second of disappointment, he was instantly filled with joy, filled with love. And he absolutely adored his daughter. He adored her. And she felt that. She saw that. And that allowed her to make peace. After the session, her experience of life changed. The way she navigated herself and her experiences changed as well. She moved with more ease, more security, and she no longer felt the need to reach for connection in the same way. Her relationships began to feel different. There was more openness. She was less guarded. And what she noticed was there was balance. She wasn't trying anymore. She was just being herself and showing up as her authentic self. And over time, she also noticed that she no longer needed to keep doing things, to keep achieving more, because she now accepted herself for who she was. Oftentimes, what we experience externally is connected to what is active within us. A pattern that repeats itself is the same underlying core emotion showing up in different experiences. Once that core emotion is brought to awareness and the inner child who felt it brought to peace, our experiences begin to change. We relate differently, we feel different, we move differently, and we show up differently. And from there, life begins to respond in different ways, more aligned to this version of us. If this story resonated with you, stay with what comes up. There is always more beneath the surface. Follow Shadow to Soul so you don't miss what comes next. Thank you for being here. Until next time, from Shadow to Soul.